Welcome to you, beautiful, to your infinite potential, to greater consciousness, to a life that's truly limitless. You're listening to Creating Beyond podcast with your host, Ashlee Rose, and I'm here to guide you home to you. Throughout this podcast, I will introduce you to the tools I've personally used and you can use to create beyond your mind and actualize the life you've always dreamed of. What do you desire to create as your life? And is now the time to step into everything you came here to be. Amazing. So welcome everybody to the very first episode of season 3 of Creating Beyond podcast. I'm so delighted to have the beautiful Rachael O'Brien here with me, who is a fellow Access Consciousness certified facilitator. And I wanted nothing more to get her on for the first episode to speak about brilliance and business, because what I realized is she has a 6-month business program coming up. And I had years ago, I did a class called Unhiding Your Brilliance in Business. And I was like, I wonder what we know about business and brilliance as well. So thank you so much for being here, Rach. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Yay! Thank you so much. It's so lovely. It's so lovely to be on a podcast where we can talk about what supported us to come out of the lies that were locked into our bodies, or the lies that we were functioning from in regard to the way we walk through the world and who we are and how we function. And yeah.
I love that, because this is the thing, like with business in particular, like we buy so many lies about the way it has to be and the way we have to do it in according to this reality. And what I've noticed, and I'm sure what you've noticed, is I've done the opposite to that and still been able to create a business, quit my professional nursing job, and now travel around the world facilitating classes. So can you speak about that? Like, what is like brilliance in business for you?
For me, brilliance in business is knowing that business is an experience. And one of the things that I have come to know is that most people are in some kind of toxic hangover in regard to business. And what creates this is this power over leadership that's now archaic, but unfortunately, it is still running most businesses. And power over is where I consider you to be less than me, I'm better than you. And it's where I will diminish you so that I can control you and get you to do what I want. And when people hear this, they will say, "Oh, that's going on in our world." Yeah, it is. And in business, people are not invited to know what they know, not invited to look at, well, how do you see this? And so for me, I'm so grateful for Simone Millis's, she is the creator of Joy Business. And in 2015 or 2014, a while ago now, she invited me, 2013 actually, it's like, wow, okay. She invited me to, at the time it was called Access Business 101. And she said, I'd like you to come do this class. And I'd like you to help get it out into the world. And my point of view was, is she crazy? Like, does she actually realize that I wasn't raised with business? I don't know anything about business. And so I wasn't willing to, no, it wasn't that I wasn't willing. I wasn't trained to see greatness. I wasn't trained to see greatness in you. I wasn't trained to see greatness in me. I was trained into righteousness, which is I'm right, you're wrong, or I'm wrong, you're right, and I'm right about you're right, and I'm right about you're wrong. And so I was trained into rightness and wrongness and perfection, which is a whole insanity unto itself. You know, how many of us are still recovering from perfectionism? And does perfectionism ever come with peace and ease, or does it only come with a conclusion of this is how it has to be and this is right and this is perfect? And so I knew she saw that I had a different way, I'm going to say, of being with people. And so I have, even as a little girl, I had a natural ability to empower people and to see what they were great at and then acknowledge that. And so Simone saw this in me at this stage. When I met Simone, I was like 42, 43 years of age. So I'm going to say I had lost my gift of sight in regard to the beauty and the brilliance that was inside of me. That somewhere someone's lie along my journey on this planet stuck, and I was functioning from that lie instead of functioning from the space of what was true for me and what was great about me. I had given that up to someone else's point of view.
Wow, and that's such a thing, like with so many people I speak to when they ask me like, how have you done business? Or like, can you give me any tips or, questions or processes I can start using? Like, where do I begin? And really what I've noticed over the course of the last 4 years of me starting my business and continuing is the only thing that has shifted and changed my business and allowed it to expand more than anything is me acknowledging my brilliance and me
Yeah.
acknowledging the gift of me. And I speak about this a lot for any of you that have been on my classes or listened to other podcast episodes. Like this whole thing about you actually loving yourself according to this reality, but actually getting the gift of you and receiving what's brilliant about you beyond the projections and expectations and judgments that other people have had of you is literally key to not only expanding your business, but changing the way you relate to everything in the world.
Yep. Absolutely, 100%.
What has your journey been with that then? So if anyone's listening that has a business and they desire to expand it, or they're in this process of really desiring to share the tools that they love or products that they love and they don't know where to begin, like what would you say? Like where do you begin with all of this?
So first of all, for me, and I am going to say that this is very different for everyone. There's no one for all formula. There's no fit into the box and tick the boxes. You're going to have to look at what brings you enthusiasm. So for me, the work that I deliver is the Access Consciousness tools, 3-day body classes, and many other classes, X-Men classes about ADD and autism. And so for me, it is imperative that I deliver extremely strong work. That's for me that I'm very confident and I'm proud of the work that I deliver. And it's strong work that assists people to generate an effective change with themselves.
Totally. And this whole idea of like being enthusiastic like is really the only way to create sustainability in business as well, because if you're not enthusiastic about what you're sharing or what you're like the products you're selling, quote unquote, to the world, then it's not actually sustainable. And what I've noticed over the course of even 4 years, and I'm sure Rach you've had this as well, it's like I've had to constantly look at like, is this topic or is what I'm facilitating still actually bringing me joy? Because as soon as the joy disappears, so does your enthusiasm for what you're sharing. And then that's when you almost require the rules and structures and regulations and lies of this reality in order to actually like continue on with business, but it's never going to last very long. So what I say to people like about, I guess, unhiding your brilliance is like, yeah, exactly that. It's like what brings you enthusiasm and what brings you joy. And usually that's the thing that has changed so much for you, whether that's a product or whether that's like certain tools as well.
Totally. And the other thing as well is that there's so much form, like businesses, this is the form of business, this is the form in which it takes, and this is the structure. And so for me, one of the greatest tools that I've ever heard is no form and structure. It's one of the 10 keys to freedom from Access Consciousness. And so I was looking at the no form and structure. For me, form and structure hides very clearly the beauty of what you can generate. And so because I have ADD, OCD, and can be like super aware of so many things at the one time. I'm not one of these chicks that can sit down at 9 a.m. on a Monday morning and work 9 through till 5. That's not ever going to work for me. I just can't sit down to get an idea, if you get what I mean. And so one of the things that I started looking at is, we talk about I am creativity, and creativity is my ability to be connected to an ever-loving consciousness, whatever that is for you. And I've got to really be extremely strong in what I know I want to bring to the world. And so for me, it cannot be based, Rachael O'Brien cannot be based on mimicking Ashlee or Simone Millis's or whoever it is that inspires you, lights you up. And so I have to have a very strong sense of myself and a very strong awareness of myself. And then what is it that is a priority for me to bring to the world? And so once I'm being that sense of myself, my ideas come to me in a way that I was in the shower this morning, and I was looking at a class that I created called X-Men and Mothers, and this is where we talk about where your mother's energetic projections, you're so energetically aware that you don't recognize that projections are extremely severe to you and your body, and they're so severe we actually buy the projection as us. We have trouble recognizing the projection and who we are and noticing the difference. And I was looking at this, and people who have OCD, autism, they pick up other people's projections super fast. And I was really looking at, with the X-Men movement, what is it that I can be to get these tools out way more into the world? And so for someone like me, I will touch business, and because I have OCD is your ability to download other people's thoughts, feelings and emotions lightning fast. I will tap into the righteousness, the judgment, the wrongness, the result, the targets. And that stuff for me is super, I'm going to use a very childlike word, yucky, in that that's that's form and structure. That's if I didn't have to go to form and structure, what would be fun for me to create? And so I started to recognize that I have OCD. I have this ability to pick other people's thoughts, ideas, beliefs and emotions up. And within that is this brilliance of now using that as an ability instead of a disability. And so I would come up with these ideas, like the X-Men and Mothers call as an example. I knew what I wanted to create, but I knew that the timing had to be there where people were ready for it. They were getting present. I had a lot of people who had come to body classes all over the world, and they were looking at the projection, and they were looking at where they have no choice, which I'm helpless. I don't have a choice here. No power, which is I don't have the ability to change something, and no freedom. And so I knew there was a lot of people starting to look at where they'd given up their ability to choose what they want and say what they required to say in favor of their mother's point of view, which might have been, don't say that, let's hide things, let's avoid this, turn away from it, don't face towards it. And so I was in the shower and I got a ping, now is the time. Now people are looking for it. And that class just went boom, ding, 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 ding. And so that's one of the things for me. It could have been, in fact, to be honest, it was a disability until I started to recognize, hang on a second here. OCD is not something wrong. It is not something bad. It is a massive capacity to pick up other people's thoughts, feelings and emotions. And so for what reason would I not use that as a massive brilliance in the creation of delivering a product that is genuinely required by people to have a greater way of being in the world?
That's brilliant in itself, because that's really the thing of uncovering your brilliance, is actually really getting to that and having that sense of self. Who am I? what is actually true for me? What am I here to actually invite the world to? And that's actually what I've began to look at over these last few months. Like I haven't been as active attending or facilitating classes. And I've really started to look at like, wait a second, like what is really true for me here? Like above everything else, what lights me up and what do I desire to invite the world to? And for me, I've started looking at like, I want to invite people to the change that I have created in my life. And that's like more so expanding out and introducing a lot more people to these tools. So it's like doing a one-day access bars class. And if those of you have never done access bars before, it's this energetic touch point technique where you touch 32 points in the head and you clear thoughts, feelings, emotions, beliefs, keeping you from creating a life that you love. And it completely changed my life. And when I facilitate those classes and see the change that occurs in a day and see people actually go, oh my gosh, I can create something different. I'm not doomed. Like I don't need to leave the planet anymore. That just brings me so much enthusiasm and joy that just then expands the entire world. So it's really like if there was no right or wrong and you didn't follow a formal structure in business and you really started to get present with what do I desire to invite the world to? And more so, what do I desire to invite myself to? Because what I've also noticed with this Brilliance piece is, generally speaking, that which you desire to invite the world to is that which you desire to invite yourself to. And are you inviting yourself to that? Because that's the other thing that I've recognized with this whole Brilliance piece. And if you want to call it like winging it, I guess, in business, is you have to be that which you desire to invite the world to.
Absolutely.
So that's like a massive part of it. So for any of you listening that are like, where do I begin? Or you're at this crossroads in your business, or you'd love to expand it, your vision, what you desire to connect people to, is vital for really expanding it beyond that which you know is possible.
I can't see how you can create a sustainable business without having that vision. Otherwise, you're going to get lost. If you haven't got that sense of what's true for you and what you would like to create, then you're going to get lost by other people's vision. And, you know, a great friend of ours, Dane Hare, says, Dr. Dane Hare, if you don't create your life, someone else will create yours for you. In other words, you will take up someone else's point of view. And I one of my other capacities is I can be a chameleon. You know, I can take on other people's points of views brilliantly. And now again, I can use that to my advantage instead of disadvantage, you know. And so if you don't create your reality, someone else will create your reality for you. And you will slip into someone else's way of creating. And for me, the indicator is when things aren't fun and light, in regard to, like, one of the areas that I'm brilliant at is when I create workshops and when I create teams, like I'm going to Saudi in a couple of days. I know for me, like I know, forget about it. That class will not be generated if there's not people there that I, number one, enjoy being around. So the translators, I don't enjoy working with people who are not contributory. In other words, that it's a gift for them to be here. Like for me, gratitude is the greatest sustainable future for all business. They're grateful to be there. They're happy to be there. It's a gift for them to choose to contribute, to be my voice in that language. And so I know for me, my host has to be someone who is going to take care of me, because, you know, we are facilitating for 4 days and your body is present. And so in the evenings, you require your own top up of your vital energies and your life force, which we've talked about as bars for the two of us. Bars brings so much ease to my body. I didn't even know how stressed I was until I got my bars on. I didn't know how my muscles and my nervous system was so twisted and still fighting my automatic reflexes. And so for me, I know I require a host that I can trust. She's going to be there. She's going to be there to check people in. She's going to be present with the tracking of who's coming to class, who's paid. And then the translators are going to be on time The equipment has to be great working equipment. The recorder has to be working. And so for me, if all those elements of it, if my OCD isn't factored in as in what works for me, it's just not this experience that I enjoy. And I am one of these people, if I don't want to be there, and if it hasn't got those elements of richness, the richness of the work, the richness, I love people. I'm actually one of these people who really enjoy being with other people and bodies. And so the richness of the work, the richness of knowing when a group comes together, so much can change. The translators, the beautiful venue, the host, wearing a beautiful dress. I know it's something so simple. That's one of the things that I really enjoy about my job. And so I have become extremely in allowance of myself in my evolution, in my business, in what's required to actually make this work, what's required for me to achieve what I would like to achieve, not from a result and a judgment, but from what truly lights me up, to connect with people and to actually enjoy it.
And that is absolute key. And again, just like you said at the start of this conversation, in order to have that brilliance, you have to have that sense of self. You have to know what's true for you, because we are so aware. And, I've spoken about this in a lot of my other podcast episodes, but we're so aware, just like Rach was saying with this OCD thing. And I'm only just beginning to recognize and acknowledge how OCD I am, and ADHD and autistic, and people have been telling me for years, and that's okay. And so really it's recognizing if you don't have this sense of self, if you don't have this sense or this acknowledgement of the gift that you are in the world and the contribution you can bring to the world just by being you, just by sharing what you know is possible to create and change, then you can't have the business that you've always desired and always know is possible, because you'll constantly be looking to everybody else's reality. You'll go on social media and you'll start scrolling and all of a sudden feel really shitty and just go, what happened? And everything around you will contract and you'll lose your joy. And this is when, just like Rach said, I start noticing myself leaving my reality and what's true for me and then going into everybody else's realities. And if you can catch that as you notice that beginning, if you can be really present with that and go, wait a second, where's my reality and where do I find it? Or what's my reality here? You start gaining this stronger sense of self. And really that's, for me, also key for having your brilliance in business, is knowing what your reality is. So a tool that you can use is start asking what's my reality in business and where do I find it? Universe, show me. What's my reality with money and where do I find it? Universe, show me. And just start allowing the universe to show you those whispers of greatness and of ease and of joy and of lightness. And I know I mention to people a lot, ease, joy, and lightness is your reality. That's your natural state of being. And so I use this as my true north and as my compass. If I'm not experiencing ease, joy, and lightness in any area, with self, with business, with money, then I know I'm not being me. And that's when I'm okay, I'm not being me. Where is my reality? Universe, please show me. And that may take a while for, particularly if you're new to listening to this, to grasp the concept of, what do you mean? Ease, joy, and glory. And lightness is actually my natural state of being when you've made yourself wrong and judged yourself for so much of your life. But what if you do have a level of brilliance in business that you've never been willing to acknowledge before? And if you acknowledged it and really went on that journey of exploring what was true for you, then what?
And the other thing in this, if someone is listening and you're questioning, am I brilliant? Well, I still believe I'm not enough and I'm not good enough and I still haven't done enough. Start to question, are those negative patterns actually yours? Is there lightness in them? And one of my favorite tools is this mine? And so if something isn't with you all the time, like when you're walking in the forest or when you're talking with your friend, or, you know, when you have that vibration that life is good and I'm okay and I can care for myself, you know, I've got this. Start to practice, is this mine? And allow yourself to enable anything that's not that lightness leave your world, you know. And so one of the areas, and I'm so grateful for this, which is a very different perspective on business. For me, business has been the very platform on which the development, the practice, and the trust in myself actually came to fruition. And that was something that I didn't know that business could be for me. And so for me, the being present, the sitting down, the reflection, sometimes understanding that if I'm stressed and trying to look after everyone, I'm one of these people that I still have to be aware of when I'm trying to overgive or deliver too much information. I still got to check in and go, hang on a second, what can this person receive? And so business for me has been the practice of developing my own awareness and the practice of trusting my own creativity, and also knowing that I am capable of generating money. And there has been huge growth in the last, I became an Access Consciousness Certified Facilitator in 2014. So in the last, whatever, 10 years is it? Or 9 years, there's been huge evolution and growth and change in the trust in my own ability to generate what it is that I want to generate.
I totally agree with you there, because I know coming to these tools, like when I first found out about Access Bars, my thing was like, how do I love myself? And particularly with me, like, I mean, I really have been on like a personal development journey, I guess, for as long as I remember. Like, but definitely when I left high school at 17, it was like, I don't think I'm good enough. Like, I don't love myself. How do I do that? And there's this massive movement, I guess, and you hear a lot of people say you can't have a relationship until you love yourself. You can't love another until you love yourself. And so there was this whole thing of this, you know, how do I go beyond like the thing of I don't believe I'm good enough or I don't like myself.
Yeah.
And business has been such a gift with me as well, and such a catalyst of, because all of a sudden it's no longer about me. It's about what I desire to invite the world to. And I know that I've got to be that in order to be able to invite the world to that. And so what become more valuable to me was actually, it wasn't so much about me and me getting the gift that I am. It was about actually creating this movement where everybody else in the world started acknowledging the gift of them. And from that, tapped into their power and their potency and their capacities and began to change the world just by them being them. So it was such a gift, because anytime I was like, I don't want to do this anymore, and you know, I was judging myself, and I hate having a business, I was like, wait a second, bring myself back to my vision. Like, what am I actually doing this for? And it was like, right, okay, success is changing one person's life. Okay, I've done that. Cool. Now what can I actually create and invite the world to? And yeah, I think so often, like, there's so many people that kind of start, and because it's not successful, whatever that looks like, you know, in the first few weeks or few months, they quit and give up. But it's like, I wonder, like, what you've defined business as, what you've decided it has to look like and has to be, and then what can business invite you to that you've never actually acknowledged before. And if there was no right or wrong, if you didn't have to create a multi-6, 7-figure business, if that wasn't your focus, and you were just really interested in what can I invite the world to, then that's when you can have so much more ease with business and everything else in your life. And business is a massive conversation. As I'm talking and as I'm hearing you talk, Rachel, I'm like, oh my God, there's so many, like every word you could expand into a whole hour conversation with business. So
Good.
I'm so grateful.
And I am too. And also, one of the things that you've got to give yourself is you've got to know that there will be times that you want to quit. You've got to know that there will be times where you will meet yourself in your Miss Pathetic like a wet blanket, you know. You know. And if you're aware that you will sometimes have difficulties, challenges, and there will be a lot that you will learn. And if you have this as an awareness when you hit your stuck points, or, you know, your point of view is that life is difficult. Wow, isn't that interesting that I have life is difficult, or people are difficult, or business is difficult, or this is too hard, I want to run away. And for me, just like the wind, turn into all those points of views and just actually allowing yourself to be present and asking, is this true? What do I really want to create here? And also allowing yourself to know, hang on a second, I don't want to do this anymore. Okay, you don't have to do it anymore. You do, like, you don't have to, just because you create a business today. Now, for it to work, I would highly suggest that you give it 3 years, you know, just to get your momentum, just to get over all the beliefs that you may have taken on that you're not good enough. Give yourself a few years to build that strength in your knowing and trust in yourself. And you said something brilliant, and I'm paraphrasing it. What you desire to create becomes greater than your own incompetence in any way, be that with financial presence, be that with whatever you've decided that, you know, you may not have an ability with something, you may be incompetent with something. But if your desire and your enthusiasm for the business is stronger, then you will train yourself, you will get support, and you will develop yourself in a way that you can facilitate what you want to bring.
Absolutely. And I guess more than anything, it's like with that, it's me knowing that the universe is there to support you, that the universe each and every moment is doing everything it can to make your life easier. And so I actually wrote a post the other day about, I guess, quantum entanglements in business. Like, I have a telecourse series coming up about it. And again, I wasn't trained in business. I've not done any business classes or courses. My parents never had a business. But what I knew coming into this is that consciousness has my back. The universe has my back.
For sure.
It is constantly working towards making my life easier. And every time you make a choice for consciousness pays you in dividends.
Supports
and
you.
Consciousness gifts you 10 times more than you
Yeah.
could even ever imagine. And so I guess with this, it's really the willingness to never dismiss the gifts that are being given. Never separate yourself from the abundant universe and your business. Trust that your business knows. Trust that your business has your back, and really seeing your business as its own entity has changed so much for me, because now, again, I know this isn't about me. This is about what this entity knows can be created in the world. And I'm the voice piece for that. So if you give up total surrender, and I know this can totally sound airy-fairy and totally sound like, how the hell do you do that? That sounds like a great idea. I mean, that's also a bit of a process. But if you do give up total surrender and begin to trust that everything here desires to support you, then, oh my gosh, that's when business can be fun. And that's what business has been for me. Every time I decide I'm incompetent, or every time I judge myself, or every time all these points of views come up, because they absolutely will. It's a lie if someone says business is fluffy and total, and easy. But it can be ease, but it's knowing when those points of view come up, exactly as we mentioned before, that you don't make that relevant. You recognize and remember your vision, like what you're here to create in the world. And I know with a large percentage of us, like, 50% of us in this world, we're here to create a greater world. And if we weren't creating a greater world, for me, I'm like, what's the point of
What's
being
the
here?
point? Yeah,
Like,
what's
what's
the
the
point?
point of doing this? And that's not like being suicidal, but it's just, what's the point? There's 50% of us in the world that have this ability to create and constantly desire to create something different. And they're usually the seekers of the world, that know something else is possible. So for me, it's like, well, if I wasn't doing this business, I don't know what I'd be doing. So I kind of like, even though I have choice, I kind of don't have a choice at the same time, if that makes sense. Like, because this is what I'm here to create.
And that right there is being congruent with your business.
Totally. Well, thank you so much for being here, Rach, and having this conversation. I'm so grateful to have met you in London, for those of you that don't know, at the Relationship Done Different Certified Facilitator Training in November 2022. And it's so cool because for me, like the topic of relationship and the topic of business, for me, it's like so connected because it's like we were mentioning before, if you're really willing to acknowledge your brilliance and get the gift of you, which is all about creating a phenomenal relationship with you, but then you're willing to create a phenomenal relationship with the universe and trust that the universe has your back and trust that your business is constantly guiding you to what's greater, then I love these two topics together because for me, they can create so much space. So thank you again, Rach. I'm super grateful.
You're so
for
welcome.
You, and I look forward to meeting you again somewhere in the world. I am coming to Europe. Well, I am moving to Europe in April, so in 3 months' time. So I will be there.
Is it Italy you're moving to?
In this 10 seconds, and I'm just following my body and my business because they're the ones that want to be over there. So I'm giving up total control, and it's Italy in this 10 seconds, yes.
Beautiful. We look forward to having you here. How did we get so lucky?
Thanks, darling. Can you tell people where they can find you and a little bit more about this business program that you have coming up?
Sure. So it's rachaelO'Brien.org, RACHAEL. And the business program, I have to look at it. It's called Killing the Fear That Stops the Contribution of You and Your Business to a World That Is Waiting for It. And so this is based on your fears are not going to go away. You've got to be willing to contribute, even if the fear and the doubt raise their ugly heads. You've got to be willing to know that this is something that you can bring to the world. And to work with people, this is the 4th time that we put this into the world, and the confidence and the trust, and people's websites get created. We had someone looking to create 500 million on one of the programs and someone looking to create 10,000 a month. So there's diversity. It's just, it's wonderful. And I'm so excited to start again on February 1st.
Amazing. So I'll pop all the links to that in the show notes below as well. And
Thank you.
This will be released on January 31st. So I've got Energy Pools for Business. So it's called Let's Get Down to Business.
Let's get down to business.
Coming up. So again, like so much of your business is energetic. Like if you're only doing in business and you disregard being, like, again, your business will not be sustainable. So these are energy exercises to really contribute to you stepping into everything you know is possible. And I also have a 2-part telecourse series called Quantum Entanglements in Business, The Ease and Elegance of Actualization, that begins Feb 5 to 8. So you guys have so many choices. There's so many other brilliant facilitators out there that use these tools that facilitate business done different classes and that are Joy of Business facilitators, and Rach is one of them. So go ahead and check her out. And how does it get any better than this? This is the first of many episodes to come where I'm actually committing to releasing an episode a week, because I can get very lazy. Well, not lazy. I do just follow the energy, and I recognize that I really have created everything that everyone sees online, like all the back end stuff. And after doing all the back end stuff, it's not really super fun for me to then actually engage with people. And I was like, no, I require to be engaging with people and introducing you to the tools that I love so much, and actually having other people do back end stuff. So that's one of the main
Yay, there you go.
Like I'm giving up control. That's not easy for me. But I'm like, okay, someone else can do all of that, and I'm just going to be here to contribute to you guys. So thanks again, Rach.
Beautiful.
I adore you so much.
Thank you so much.
I'll talk to you guys next week for another episode of Creating Beyond podcast.
Beautiful.
Bye.
Thanks so much. Bye.